I am Deirdre Daniels, your K-12 Science Curriculum Coordinator, joined by the fabulous Becca Zimmerman, Science Instructional Coach. We have created what we have fondly called a flipped jigsaw training to address some challenges that we have seen in the classroom as it relates to whole group data collection, if you will, and a lot of screen sharing. So we want to provide some instructional strategies that you could use during your live class sessions in Jigsaw to help engage the students and to really get a fine idea of where each student is standing in relation to understanding what you're talking about that day, either the topic, content, or even standards. As you go through this presentation, it is not intended to be something that you sit through for 40 minutes and question your life choices. However, there is this picture that has all of the times for when the specific strategies will be shown. There's an example and there's also a how-to on the teacher end. If you just move the little scroll bar along and go to the instructional strategy that you would be interested in using for your class, that would be the most beneficial way to use this recording. I would highly encourage you to maybe find 1 or 2 strategies a month or even an instructional cycle that you'd really like to make your own for that instructional cycle or that month, and then move on. Don't make this something where you're trying to do all 6 things, especially if they're all new to you. You will see that some of them, especially the movable pieces, can be a little bit more challenging as far as front loading and setting it up.
I need to unmute myself. Okay, so before we send you off to take a look at those things, we did want to share something that we found we thought would be useful for everyone. So I'm going to screen share Jigsaw. Okay, so this is the setup that most people use. You have your webcam over here, your presentation, and your whiteboard. I sit in a lot of classes where it never moves from this pane. Now, of course, if the students are in class, they can maximize whichever part of it that they want for themselves, assuming they do that. I mean, we have no idea to really, how to gauge whether or not they just let it sit how we have it, or if they change it for themselves. But regardless of that, when you watch the recording, you can't change anything. So if you have students who go back to the recordings, they can't, if you've got this little tiny presentation with all of these words, they don't even have the option to maximize it if they wanted to. So we wanted to show you just how to change this layout for your students that are in live class, but also for those, so it shows on the recording. So let's say you're teaching, you've got a presentation up here and you're not using the whiteboard at all for the day. There's absolutely no reason to have it pulled up. So all you have to do is drag it down. Now that's going to change the view for you. You can make your webcam a little bit smaller if you want your presentation to be large. This changes the view for you. I haven't done anything for the students yet in the recording or on in live class. You need to come up here, this little arrow, drop down, and apply layout. Now that sticks this view on the recording and for your students in live class, and it just makes it easier for them to read what you have on the board, to see what you're doing. If you pull the whiteboard back up, now you guys are working on the whiteboard. You're going to need to go back, apply layout again, and now they've followed you along and they're with you on the whiteboard. So it takes some practice to go back and forth and remember to reapply the layout. But your students will tell you, they'll say, you're talking about something that I don't see. It takes some practice, but you'll get used to it, and it really does make a big difference as far as what your students are seeing in class. So just wanted to share that. And we hope that this flipped training is helpful. If there's anything that you see as you're working through it that you have questions about, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Thanks. So a lot of you are talking about tickets out the door. A quick polling option is built into Jigsaw. So I'm going to send you guys a poll, an instant poll. Now I can wait until the end and I can type this up really quickly. Let's say I'm really not sure what they're going to struggle with. I kind of want to see how the lesson goes to figure out how I'm going to poll them at the end, or exactly the question you're going to ask at the end. I could upload this ahead of time. Either way, it doesn't take long to do it. So I just sent you guys a poll. So go ahead and give me a quick answer to that question. What school are you going to be working in? We have a lot of high school and elementary school. There's a middle school person. So this is a really good way to kind of see who's with you still. As the answers come in, I have a chart on my screen that has all of your names, and then it has your answer. So I can see if you don't have an answer, and then see, of course, what your specific answer is. So let's say that you have a student that you know that they're logging in, and then you are losing them to video games. So you call mom, and they say, I don't know what to tell you. He's logged in. I watch him log in. He's there. And this is when you can take a screenshot and say, actually, he may be in, but he's not really with me. And here's a way that you can kind of collect data on that. You'll be working in compliance. Okay. So you're kind of across the board, Alethea. Gotcha. Got it. Are we able to share the poll with the students? Yep. Okay. So I can copy it to whiteboard. And there you go. So we have 6 elementary, 1 middle school, 5 high school, and compliance. Yep. So you can share the results if you'd like. Of course, there is also an option for me to share the results that had your names on them. I would definitely suggest not doing that. That's just a privacy thing. They don't want their answers up on the board. You don't want to put them up there. So always select that chart option. And this will be in your how-to modules, how to send a quick poll. That's a great way to do those tickets out the door and collect quick data and do a little formative assessment and see how the class went. Okay. So taking those multiple choice questions that you put on your slide and turning them into a quick poll that you push out to students is a really great way for you to collect data for your whole class understanding of a concept. So if you put the question up on the board and you have students answer it in the chat, usually that first student who answers, the rest, a few other kids will follow suit, but you usually don't get a lot after you get that initial answer. This way, students can anonymously answer the question, and you can really gauge whether or not they know the concept. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Up here in the attendees pane, you're going to push this arrow and click Instant Poll. If this is a brand new poll, you're going to create poll. Go ahead and give the poll a name so that in your future classes for the day, it's just right there. And you don't have to go through this process of typing it all in. Okay, so here's a question I had already put in. Rubbing your hands together causes, and I'll put a blank. Okay, so the options, I put them in there, and then you're going to click Save and Start Poll. So it's going to send out the poll to all of your students. It's going to list the name of every student here and then their answer as they're answering. So this is a good opportunity to do a quick engagement check. Hey, Johnny, you haven't answered the question. I need an answer from you, and kind of call on students by name as they, if it appears that they're not with you. And then you can click this chart button, and it's going to give you like a pie chart of all the responses. So you could throw that up on the board. It remains anonymous, but it would show, this many of you understood that, when you rub your hands together, it causes friction, and then so on. So you could, maybe take a moment and clarify any of those misconceptions from students who may have answered differently or anything like that. And then you're going to end the poll. And then when you come back, so let's, next class, when you go to create the poll, it's already here. So you can just click that poll and send it back out again. And that is how you create an instant poll in Jigsaw.
So as you can tell from the recording that I shared from Forensic Science, the annotation tool on presentations can be really cool. So Ms. Brown was able to show a video as an uploaded MP3 or MP4 file where her image usually is. And then on the presentation slide, she could have students complete a chart or answer questions as it related to the video. Of course, it's not the only way that students can annotate. Um, there's a question. You could ask a student to circle the correct answer choice. Maybe you have a math problem, some of our math-based science courses, and you want students to actually be able to solve those problems. You can use that as well. I'm going to flip back and forth between the teacher view and the student view so you can see how this is actually done behind the scenes. So here, from the drop-down arrow, I just made the presentation slide really large. So if I want students to annotate on this presentation slide, I'll turn on the annotations. This gives me the option to annotate, okay? You'll now go to this drop down and oops, I've already have it undone. But there is an option to lock and unlock the annotations. If the annotations are locked, here's the student view. You'll see that all the student sees is exactly what I see. This gives me the opportunity to annotate on here. You know, this isn't right, and this one isn't right. Look at this word. What does this mean? You know, you can annotate on there from the teacher view, and the students can see everything you do. Maybe I'm ready for them to answer the question. I can go ahead and unlock the annotation. Now going to the student view, the student now sees these annotations. They have the option to draw, or they have the option to type like what you saw in Miss Brown's class. Succession means whatever it means. There's also this fabulous math equation. If you've never used this, if you have math-based science and you need the students to do an equation, to write out the equation, what is the equation for momentum? They could easily use that as well. The best thing about these presentations is now all of this work has been done. Teacher and student alike have annotated on this presentation slide, but I want to save it. Like what? There's this little fancy PDF. Once the student clicks that, it saves these pages, all of the pages of the presentation slide. It saves it in a nice handy dandy little file as a PDF for students to access at any time. This is an example of how you can use annotations and how you can set it up.
Oh, and then I have a waterfall question to do. So waterfall. What does ductile mean? And the picture could give you a hint there. All right, we're gonna waterfall this. In, let's see, anyone typing? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and enter. Woo, awesome, y'all noticed that that duck over there is made out of wire.
So the waterfall is a really popular strategy at GCA. It's really good for just getting students involved in the chat. When, like we've said, in this training before, one student answers in the chat, and then a lot of times, even if you had more students that knew the answer and that were participating with you, once they see the answer in the chat, they don't feel like they need to put theirs as well. So you end up really not getting a good idea of how many students are participating or their understanding, because if that answer is correct, they'll just copy it and put the answer in the chat and move on. So it really doesn't assess full class understanding very well. But using the waterfall strategy will help you do that. So like you saw in the video, you have students, you make sure that you tell students they're going to put their answer in the chat, they're not going to press enter. You could even turn the chat off, like lock the chat, have them, they can't type anything, but have them think through their answer, unlock it, then have them type it. You will have to teach them how to use this strategy. So if this isn't something that you're used to using, you're going to, a few times probably get frustrated where a kid puts the answer and they push enter and, correct them in how to use this strategy. But, keep doing it and eventually they'll get on board and understand what it is you're trying to do. You could also set a timer. So you could, this is a good way to use this feature. Come up here, timer settings. Let's say you want, to give them 1 minute, like if it's a longer question where, they need some time to, to apply something or to work through a problem. You could put, a 1 minute timer on, or 2 minutes, or however long. Start the timer, make sure that you click that you want to show it. That's what will make it pop up for students. So show, and then you can click start and have a timer that counts down, and then they press enter. There are a lot of different ways that you can use this strategy, but it will help you collect more data on those checks for understanding.
Distance. So your task, I'm not going to click on them, so you should be able to move them. Your task is to read each box and to decide, is the statement distance or displacement? I will leave this up for you so that you have it to refer to if you need. And all of those pieces should be movable pieces. So you should be able to click and move. There's one that is incorrect. One. Anybody want to take a guess? Nope, the Willie was good. Yes. Whoever just moved that one. Yes, 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 yes. You only have a 50-50 chance. So put in the other one. Do it. No, that's what was just there. Don't bully the movable pieces. Yes, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect. So here they are in a nice pretty. I'd love to lie and tell you that the movable pieces is the easiest thing to complete. However, it takes a lot of front loading. It's very effective in class, but it will take a little effort before class to make this work. I just wanted to show you my folder. So this is when I created, not the exact example that you saw, but when I created this, here is my folder, because we all keep our PowerPoints, right? So here is my folder from that lesson from January 14th. And you'll notice here that I have, not that, I had breakout room, I had all the things in this one, so forgive it. But I had my class PowerPoint here, And then you'll notice I had all of these images saved that I was going to do as for the movable pieces. So from the PowerPoint, I just saved each of those images separately. You could snip them or, whatever works for you. Take a screenshot and crop it, however you choose to do it. And they're all saved separately. Now that I have that, I could come into Jigsaw as an asset and I can upload them all separate. So I have my presentation. I have the background images, which I'll show you are saved, and I'll show you why I did that. Not necessarily a requirement, but especially for the younger grades, you might find this to be super beneficial to take this one extra little step. So the background image where they'll actually use the movable pieces on, then I have whatever those movable pieces are, and these are all, you'll notice, are all uploaded as images. All right, so let's hop in the session. And you'll notice over here in images are all the things. So it does upload that. Remember your apply layouts, you can make those images go away. And that's funky. And they can all go away for all the students. So I work through my PowerPoint. I work through my PowerPoint and I get to the point where I now want them to identify each of these emojis as one of the levers or as one of the simple machines, excuse me. So what I could do is I can use this little copy feature, right? And I can copy this image directly to the whiteboard. I can make the whiteboard nice and big, and I can insert image, and I can insert a wedge, and I can insert all these little banners that I have. And now that they're all separate, students can move them. Now there's a couple things to this. One, two students can't move it at the same time. So if one student has, oh no, see, trying to click and talk, it doesn't work. If one student has this selected, see how the blue box is around it? So if one student has this selected to move it somewhere, then another student isn't going to be able to click incline plane. So if a student's like, I can't click, well, somebody might be on it. But you also want to check and make sure you're not on it. So a lot of times, which is one of the points where I laughed during my little video clip, because it was a running joke that I would bully these things because I would stay attached to them. And the students are like, we can't move it, Miss Daniels. And I'm like, oh yeah, here we are. So just make sure you click off of it. You can click anywhere else in the whiteboard. You just can't have a blue box around that piece if you want a student to move it. And again, likewise, another student can't be moving it. But now you can give the students the opportunity to move it. So I said I uploaded a background because what I found a lot is like a student clicks this, well, they really click this, and then all of a sudden, like things have been moved, but then the background's now like moved, and it's like, oh my gosh, so annoying, right? So as I said, it could be extremely important with the younger students as well. It takes an extra second to take a snip or a screenshot of that background. This double image right here actually allows you to insert a background. I can now insert this image as the background. It's a massive background, isn't it? Oh no, don't exit off of it. I can insert this as a background. Then I can insert all of my words on top. These clearly have zero scale. These were clearly used last year prior to whatever update Jigsaw did, so forgive me. And now when students move these things, you'll notice there's no way they can move the backboard, right? Like all it's doing is drawing boxes that are the background. So the background stays still and all these pieces can be moved to wherever it would relate. So something else I did, well, that's great. I don't want to use it that way. And this is what the slide looks like. I could have deleted it. I could have skipped right over it. But this is what my little banners look like. And these are literally the images that I saved to make these movable pieces. I have an answer slide. So after the students complete it, I can now show them the answers. Here's all the correct answers. All right, so something else I used it with is matching. So lots of matching. I love the whiteboard for matching. There's obviously so many ways that you can do it. Trying to move faster than Jigsaw wants me to move. So again, I could take this, I could copy it down. I could have students put in the letter, right? Like, here's the whiteboard, grab a pen, whiteboard's turned on, fill it in, whoever does it, fill in the correct answers. Again, you're gonna deal with this background issue. You could just take a screenshot of this so you have it already saved in the asset as an image. Then I could just go ahead and I could paste this in. Go ahead and fill in the matching. And they could write wherever they could put their A, B, C's, D's, and E's over here on the line, and the background's not gonna move. To make the movable pieces, to just take it that one step further, to engage students a little bit more, something that was always fun, that my kids loved the movable pieces. I just had these pieces already done. I didn't have to try to figure out, maybe this is like a Deirdre problem, but my writing on this whiteboard is like, it is bad. So to not have to try to interpret students' handwriting, is that a B or like what is that letter? And to not have to put myself on the spot with my horrible chicken scratch. I have these letters already created, right? So I can put them here. Then once they're all done, making sure I've clicked off so that there's no blue square around it, the students can now go in and they can move these pieces to whatever definition matches. And essentially it can be a free-for-all so that any student that feels comfortable matching can match. Again, the only challenge is that if a student has already clicked on that letter, then the other students might not be able to actually make those moves. So this is using movable pieces. Again, a huge thing is the front loading. You will have things to do on the front end to make it work. But your kids will absolutely love it, and it'll be a great strategy, something new to include for them.
Five. Do you have your cubes next to you or something you can count with? You can use your fingers too. So everybody, if you have your cubes from math class by you, or if you want to use your fingers to count along, we are going to count up from 5 so we can get today's new date. Look at those Unifix cubes, and those are Miss Usher's favorite color too. So here we go, you guys. I'm scrolling through. Ava has some counting cubes. Ayla's counting with us. If you're using your fingers, just put your hands up to the screen. So we're going to use our math counting on strategy so we can count up. Let's see. Ooh, Erica, I see you using some things to count. Awesome job. So let's count up, everybody, from 5. And from Thursday, we have had 1, 2, 3, 4 days. So you can also think of it as 5 plus 4. But let's count up from 5. So if you have your Unifix cubes like Amaya, go ahead and get 5 cubes. Because we're going to start at 5 and we're going to count up. Jasper's using his fingers. Jayla, what are you going to use to count? Are you going to use your hands? You're going to use your notebook? Jordan and John. All right, so here we have 5. Let's count on 4. Remember, we don't start over at 1 again. That won't help us. We have to think of the number that comes after 5, which is 6, 7, 8, 9. So guess what, everybody? It's been 4 days since we last saw each other on Thursday. And so we counted 4 places. And that means today is our 9th day of November. We're still in November because there's 30 days total. So we still have a little ways to go. Now, we didn't do a T chart. So we've had T as our letter of the week. So think about it like you're making a lowercase t, but it's just a really, really big lowercase t. So everyone give me a thumbs up on your webcam if you see my T down on the group whiteboard. Give me that thumbs up like McKaylee. Good job, McKaylee. Nice, Lydia. Thank you, Marlena. Thank you, Leanna. Yeah, Ruva. Good job. I'm so glad you guys see it. Seisha, do you see the T chart on the group whiteboard? It looks like a big lowercase t. Yay. All right, and so we talked about the colors. Red for hot, so I'm going to write hot on this side. And I'm going to write cold on the other side in blue. And guess what? We get to already add something to the other side because McKaylee told us that milk is cold. So we're going to add that over on our side for cold, hot and cold. All right, so we have milk. Milk is cold. Good job, McKaylee. All right, so you can write this in your notebook too. You guys know how to do a lowercase t. We had a lowercase t as a letter of the week, so you've practiced.
The whiteboard is a tool that you can use to allow students to put notes and things up on the board, or you can put notes on the board. It's a really good tool to use if you're showing, you're screen sharing a video clip, and you can put guided questions and things like that up on the board for students to complete, or notes for them to add as they're watching the video. So you can pull up the whiteboard. If you have a 2-pane classroom, you still have this little whiteboard button down here that you can put that will pull up the whiteboard for you. You can add text, things like that. You'll want to give students whiteboard tools. To do that, you click this little arrow right here and you just unlock the group whiteboard. And what that does is it pops up their tools. So now they can write on the board with you, and you can go back and forth, and you can lock it if you need to, add pages, remove pages, things like that. So let's say you're showing this video clip and you want students to, as they're watching, we know that if we're going to show a video clip, that we need to have something that we've asked our students to do while they're watching. It's something to produce to show that, so that you can determine if the video was effective, and so that you can assess, whether or not they pulled out those major concepts or ideas that you wanted them to from the video clip. So I could, put some text on the board and say, okay, so as you're watching the video, I want you to take note of the vocabulary words that you hear. And as you hear a vocabulary word, throw it up on the board, or you could type out a question or a few questions, just things for them to look for as they're watching the video, and let them put their notes up on the shared whiteboard. You could also do, I've got another page here that I've already added. You could do like a KWL on the whiteboard. So let me maximize this. Before you're going to play the video clip, or before you're going to go over the concept, whatever you're going to do, what do you want to know? Or what do you already know? What do you want to know? And then, before you dive into the activity or the video, they can, then come back to what they learned. So that's a good thing for them to do as they're watching. So this is a really important tool to use in your classroom, and a really great way to kind of take different activities and make them a little bit more student-centered, in a way for you to really assess student understanding. It's also something that they can save. So you've got this neat little PDF button. So let's say you fill out this whole KWL with your students and you've got a really good product and you want them to save it to their notes. They can click the PDF button and do so. So it's a really awesome tool to use in your classes.
All right, question numero dos. You're going to use the polling pod for this one. Which type of cells have genetic material that is contained in a nucleus? Give me the thumbs up, the frowny face, the turtle, or the green check. Thank you, Abigail, for getting us started in the polling. Thank you, Davina and Jacob and Lacey and Rain. Thank you, Tony. Who else got some sleepy heads today? Thank you, Brian and Carlton, Ariel, and Aladine and Azai. Thank you, thank you. What do y'all think? You definitely have to know the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. You also have to know the difference between plant cells and animal cells. So just cell parts in general is going to benefit you greatly.
Polling is a great way to kind of get an overall view of what your students understand. One thing we see a lot is teachers saying, what's the correct answer, right? And so little Deirdre is going to say, oh, let me unlock the chat. So little Deirdre is going to say answer A, right? And I've now put it in the chat and everyone behind me is probably going to say answer A unless they're really confident in something else because little Deirdre put her answer first. In order to get a better view of what your students understand or don't understand, I really like the use of these emoji features. So you'll see here on this slide, for example, there's a turtle, a bunny, a hand, and a happy face. And these answer choices, instead of A, B, C, or D, relate to an actual emoji. This is the teacher view. Here's little Deirdre. She sees the answer choices. I can click my emoji down here, my little emoji features, my happy face, and I can select the turtle. I think the turtle is the right answer. The great thing about this is students cannot see other students' answers. Do you have students with high anxiety? Do you have students that aren't engaging because they don't know the correct answer or they're scared to be wrong? This is a great way to have students put in answers and you can see them all on your end. Honestly, any co-host or host could see them. If you have a co-teacher and they're a co-host, they can also see them. This is important to be careful if you have a student that you've allowed to become a co-host for whatever reason. You'll want to make sure that they are an attendee in order to not see everyone's choices. And you can do that simply by clicking their name and changing their status here right under their picture. As long as they don't have this little person next to them and they're not a co-host, you can see everybody's emoji feedback without other students seeing each other. So I can still go through and I can say, oh, Deirdre, you haven't answered yet. I'm still waiting on answer choices from, these individuals, and you can still identify who has an answer. Not only that, you can see who has specific misconceptions, and maybe you use this to make breakout rooms for remediation, or you see who's got it. Maybe there's only 3 kids that got it, and there's 20 kids that don't, and you can put those 3 kids in some kind of enrichment because you can see that they clearly have mastered and understand this standard. After you've taken this emoji, taken this feedback using these emojis, you can come right up here to your little global navigation dropdown on the attendees, and you can clear the feedback. That'll get rid of everyone's answer choices, and then you can ask again. Students can change their answers. So coming back to the student view, I can be a turtle. You can see a turtle, and then maybe I'm like, oh, I don't know, let me go ahead. I think it's going to be the bunny instead. And you see that it's changed to bunny. So students can change that. If you forget to clear the feedback, which happened to me multiple times, the students can always just go with that. Usually I notice pretty quickly when answers, I'm like, oh, give me a second, clear the feedback, and then, hey, send your answers through again.